Hey everybody. Okay, so this is, I don't know. Uh, this video is going to be The Hate You Give, chapters 19, 20, 21, and 22. Sorry you guys can't see me, but it is what it is. I'm sure y'all will live. So instead, I'll show you a really cool picture or infograph, whatever you want to call it. Let me pull it up real fast so I can share. You guys can look at this instead. It's way better than my face. Bear with me. Sorry, guys. Here we go. There it is. Okay. So we're going to start with chapter 19. Oh, I locked it because of Aline. Sorry. Okay, so chapter 19, there's a meeting between the gangs. So if we remember, the Garden Heights King Lords, they don't really screw with other King Lords. I mean, they do, but they don't. So they call over the Cedar Grove King Lords, or at least Maverick does. And Maverick has them in his kitchen when Star wakes up. And they have, basically a smaller meeting to discuss how they're going to have a bigger meeting in an upcoming chapter about how to keep the neighborhood essentially from burning down. So while that's happening, Uncle Carlos is outside with Maverick, and Star seems to Star finds them apparently on good terms and having had worked out their issues. So at this point, Star has to go to court to go give her testimony. And the Cedar Grove King Lords provide an escort so that nothing happens to them, because as we know, Star is essentially, in trouble for dry snitching about King, who is Garden Height King Lord. So that's why they need this escort. So anyway, so Star gets to the courthouse to provide her testimony, and she admits to readers in, her inner monologue that she feels she's been on trial since coming forward as the witness and since watching. What? I don't know, Christian. Since seeing Khalil get shot. So as she provides her testimony, we've reached now the climax of the novel. And we realize that Star is following the path that her parents showed her in doing the right thing, even though the very real danger, despite the fact of the danger that it puts her and her family in, that it's still the right thing to do. So this is where that theme of choices versus environment comes into play. We've seen plenty of, Law and Order episodes or Criminal Minds or any of them where they'll keep their mouths shut because they want to protect their family instead of having the truth come out. So then we move into chapter 20. Her testimony takes a total of 3 hours. Okay. So after that, then we move on to going to school because she should be a normal teen and she has to go to school. So she goes to school and Haley calls her out for lying because Haley realizes that Star never told anyone that she knew Khalil. But she finds a picture from a birthday party from like 3rd grade, I think. I can't remember how old they were. But she finds a picture from a birthday party that Khalil is in with Haley and Maya and Star. And she's like, you knew him. So Haley says, I don't really understand why you lie. And you should really apologize to me for calling me racist, because obviously since I'm in this picture, I'm clearly not. Listen, bitch, that's not how this works. So Maya steps in to say that, it's not about hanging around people of different races. It's about your comments, and that you've said racist things in the past, not only to Star, but to herself. And Haley does not take any responsibility or sense of ownership for the words that have caused her friends, pain. Maya brings up the cat incident for Thanksgiving, and, obviously the fried chicken comment. And so Haley continues to kind of brush it off because she doesn't really see anything wrong with what she said. And she is completely disassociating words with being a racist. She thinks that, words don't make you racist, that it's actions. So she doesn't really get it. But then she finally says that Khalil was going to die anyway, and 115 did a favor by killing him. So obviously, this makes Star a little pissed. And so Star punches her in the face. Come on, she was deserving it the entire time anyway. Let's be honest. So Star punches Haley. Remy comes to defend Haley. Seven comes to defend Star. And the four of them get pulled apart by security guards at the school. And all four of them receive a 3-day suspension, which, I don't know, seems a little light. Like, you got into a fight and get a vacation from school. I don't know. I wasn't that kind of kid, so I don't really know how that works. But anyway, so Star and Seven arrive home from school with Lisa, and Maverick at this point is now meeting with the Garden Disciples and the Cedar Grove King Lords. So these are 2 rival gangs, okay? And he says to them that, you know, they need to help keep the peace in the neighborhood because the cops think that, you know, like they're allowed to burn shit to the ground because of how they act and because of the gang violence. And that's why cops don't want to come help. And that when they do come help, it's never really help. It's just brutality. But anyway, so he's, you know, Maverick says to Garden Disciples and Cedar Grove King Lords that we need to work together to keep the peace and to keep the neighborhood from burning down, essentially. They all agree. And then Maverick and Lisa also decide that the punishment for Seven and Star is to work at the store for the 3 days that they're suspended, but they're not going to punish them further because they understand why it happened, why that fight happened after they saw the video of the fight and they heard the comment that Haley made that he would be dead anyway, and 115 did them a favor. So that's kind of cool of the parents, I think. Anyway, moving on to chapter 21. So Star's family now decides to have a birthday barbecue for Seven at Uncle Carlos's house. Chris and Maya show up because obviously they're in that neighborhood. And Star is very nervous about her 2 worlds coming together. Okay. Okay. Because obviously she has worked very hard this entire novel to keep the 2 worlds very separate. She does not like the idea of them coming together. She's very nervous about it. But she realizes that the 2 worlds can coexist because Kenya asks where Haley is, and Maya tells Kenya about, you know, the fight that happened between Haley and Star at school. And Kenya's like, oh shit, that's cool. Like, so she being Star is like, oh, they can exist together. Oh, okay, all right. So she's a little happier about that. Then security rings them and says that Aisha is trying to get into the party because she was not invited to Seven's birthday party. So shocking news there. Anyway, so Seven asks Maverick to deal with her. And Maverick tells him, you need to man up. Like, that's your mom, number 1. No matter what, she's always going to be your mom. And number 2, this is a problem you have to deal with. So you need to figure it out. And I think that Maverick is very much the tough love of the 2, you know, him and Lisa. So anyway, so Aisha and Seven get into an argument. And, you know, she's very upset that she wasn't invited. And Seven says, why would you be invited? You've never acted like my mom a day in your life. I have to be the adult in the house. I have to give, you know, Kenya and Lyric food. I have to do all of this. I have to protect them from King. Not you. You don't do any of that. So anyway, they argue about it. She calls him ungrateful, and Seven storms off inside and begins to cry. And he's crying to Lisa, and he's kind of crying to Star, but more so to Lisa because, you know, he always has seen Lisa as much more motherly than his own mom. And Kenya admits to him that she really just wants Aisha to leave King, even though King is her dad, because she realizes that it's just not good for anybody involved. So anyway, Star says that Aisha is probably just afraid and just needs a little bit of a push. So, you know, fingers crossed that comes at some point for them. But then we roll into chapter 22. And now this is when shit's going to start to get crazy, is right after this chapter. Okay. So at this point, it's been about 2 to 3 weeks after Star gave her testimony, but it's been a total of 13 weeks since Khalil has been shot. So Miss Ofer calls Star to say that the jury is ready to announce their decision. And she calls Chris and says, like, come pick me up. I don't want to be alone for this. So Chris picks her up and brings her back to his house. And she wants to get her mind off of things. So she starts making out with Chris and begins to initiate that she wants to have sex. And Chris stops her because he's like, whoa, we're not going to do this because you're in a bad, mental state. And last time I attempted, you stopped talking to me. So there's that. And Star, I believe, from what we can gather from, context clues, is pretty grateful for this, but we'll never really know, to be honest. Where is me with my notes? So then at this point, Seven calls Star to say, hey, have you seen Devontae? Because no one has seen him. And she's like, no. So she tries to call. She doesn't know what's going on. And finally, Kenya calls Seven and says Devontae is at their house. So Seven, Star, and Chris arrive at Aisha and King's house to help Devontae, and they find that he is bleeding. Okay, Seven then begs Aisha for help, but she says that Devontae deserved what he got and that anybody helping him, especially Star, deserves to get equally as beat up. So at this point, there's like this weird tension, especially if you've seen the movie, you can see the tension that's in this part. And Aisha snaps and tells Seven to get everybody out of the house, leave, get out. And she's now kicking out Kenya and Lyric as well, not just Seven, Devontae, and Star, but Kenya and Lyric, her 2 daughters. So as they're leaving, Seven's really upset by it because he doesn't get it. But Star witnesses Aisha kind of distracting King by flirting with him so that he doesn't go into the house. And Seven just doesn't, he's really like, I don't understand why she would kick Kenya and Lyric out. And Star says, if she hadn't done that, then Kenya and Lyric would be at risk to get hurt by King for helping Devontae. So it's like she's finally beginning to take an active role in parenting by protecting her child. So that's what is being suggested. And as they are in the car on their way to, if I remember correctly, the hospital for Devontae, they hear the grand jury is not going to indict Officer 115. And that is where we leave chapter 22. Okay, so now shit's really going to start hitting the fan. Okay, that's my recap of 1920, 21, 22. It'll be a good time. All right, stay tuned next week for the remaining chapters. I think that's all I got. And I will talk to you guys later. Have a good week. And that's it. Bye, guys.